Well, it's interesting with Trump because we haven't just seen this with Iran, with him supposedly calling off these attacks at the last minute, but also there was what happened with Venezuela, where it seemed like there was this slow ramp up to hostilities with Venezuela, and that's kind of seemed to dissipate a little bit over the last several weeks. It seems to me like Trump is sort of playing some sort of good cop, bad cop game where Bolton and Pompeo are actively campaigning for war against Iran and Venezuela and these other countries, and Trump seems to be playing the good cop where he's kind of holding them back. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we have this dynamic? Is it part of his art of the deal, or do you think that it actually is Trump trying to restrain the neoconservatives?
My view is that it's just a reflection of the chaotic nature of policymaking in the White House. As you said, Bolton and Pompeo are way out ahead, not only on Iran, but on Venezuela. And then they get pulled back. I mean, by all reports, the CIA had real plans for Venezuela, change of government, everything else. And then they're pulled back. It's really hard to know exactly what's going on. The good cop, bad cop is a reasonable interpretation in my view, but I prefer the chaotic one, the fact that there's no real guidelines, there's no real policy process that we used to have the agencies come together and get best views of what's likely to happen if we do A or to B or 3. And so you have this kind of sporadic aggression, almost like last night, or backing off. Now, yesterday, when the president apparently authorized airstrikes on Iran, and by some reports, the aircraft were in the air, and they called them back. Now, that is interesting. That cries out for some intelligent explanation. And he's going to pay a price for this politically, because you have the pundits in the air saying, "Oh, for once, Trump acted presidentially." What? By doing what? By sending a bunch of rockets and Tomahawk missiles into Syria? That's presidential? And so they're going to say, "Oh, this time he had a chance to be presidential. What did he do? He buckled. He pulled them back."
Right,
Now,
and you already see that. I mean, there was at least one headline that was suggesting that Putin had told him to stop it, or put out in the public that the U.S. shouldn't attack Iran. It's sad. It seems like the media, they're always kind of campaigning for war, and they're always hitting Trump from the right and trying to provoke him into actually attacking countries. I mean, even actually when he did bomb Syria, there was a criticism that it wasn't destructive enough. No, not enough people got killed, and that he must have been colluding with Putin as to not cause damage. So it seems like these folks in the media just will not be satisfied until Moscow itself is leveled.
my God, that's not an overstatement. It's really strange. This has all happened before. I mentioned 2007, 2008. Also in 2007, Bush and Cheney were not satisfied with one aircraft carrier group in the Persian Gulf. They sent another one. And then they wanted to send another one. And as Cheney put it, we want to send the message. Well, Admiral William Fallon, who was chief of CENTCOM, the Central Command having purview over that area, put the kibosh on the third carrier group. He said, "We don't need it. We don't need it. The Iranians are not threatening us. We don't need it." And that put him in very bad odor with Cheney and Bush. And then he said, and this is really interesting, he said to a friend of mine, Colonel Pat Lang, who also does a lot of analysis. He worked for DIA as the chief Middle East analyst. He told Colonel Lang, he said, "Look," he said, "Pat, we're not going to do Iran on my watch." Now, now this is early 2007, all right? So Pat asked him, Pat said, very, very, very gay. He says, "Well, do you mind if I pass that along?" And Fallon just turned around. So that went directly to the Washington Post. The next morning, Admiral Fallon, head of CENTCOM, says, "We're not going to do Iran on my watch," quote, end quote. Whoa, all hell broke loose. A couple months later, Bobby Gates, the defense secretary, was sent out to Tampa to relieve Admiral Fallon. Well, Fallon was saying that I don't care how much you cook the intelligence. I'm not going to get my boys into a war that's not really necessary. And so he was cashiered. The only example of that kind. Now, what was really interesting is that Hilary Mann, a very well-respected national security director for Iran and Persian Gulf affairs, former, she warned at the time, and what she said was some Bush advisors secretly wanted an excuse to attack Iran. Quote, "They intend to be as provocative as possible and make the Iranians do something that America would be forced to retaliate for," quote, end quote, she told Newsweek. So, deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say. That's what they're trying to do now.